Hey, Sarah.
Gina, it's saying my band.
Yeah, my sound. Hang on one second.
Okay, you can probably hear me better now, huh?
Yeah, I can. You know.
Okay. I'm going to make either you or Melissa a co-host. Do you have a preference? Melissa says Sarah, so okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I've just made you a co-host so you can shut everything down when you guys are ready.
Okay, we'll give it like 2 minutes to let whoever's going to come on get on, and then I'll call the meeting to start, and we'll go from there. David is trying to get in. He's just having a hard time finding the link. So we'll just wait for a second for him to log in, and then we'll get started. All
Hey,
right.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thanks, David. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We are meeting tonight to discuss the parking rules, proposed amendments and changes. I am Sarah Fotheringham, your president.
I'm Melissa Ducker, Vice President.
Jess Michaels, Secretary.
David Delman, treasurer.
Okay, so the proposed parking rule amendments were emailed to homeowners May 5th. That was meeting state statute, and it was also posted on Facebook May 3rd, and emailed and posted again yesterday to all the homeowners. And we are just gonna, I would like to preface this just a little bit, that we have spent countless hours on this and trying to do what's best for the neighborhood and taking into Utah law, neighborhood participation, comments, questions, and we definitely don't want to cause problems, but we also want to have a cohesive neighborhood, and part of that cohesion is parking. So we are going to go right ahead and open it up for homeowner question or comment. You can either use the audio or the chat, however you guys want to go ahead and do that. Okay. Just tell me again what to click to read the chat.
On my phone in the bottom right corner, it's the three dots that say more.
Okay.
And then it says chat.
Okay.
And LC wrote, I know we need to register our vehicles. Does that mean that if I have my mom park in my spot, she might get towed?
Okay, so that was actually a common question that I got. So your parking stalls are yours always, and that is whatever vehicle is in your parking spot is your discretion. The only time, part of the reason we're having homeowners register their vehicles is so if somebody accidentally parks in somebody else's spot, we can call the homeowner, text the homeowner, email the homeowner, go knock on the homeowner's door to try and get them to move it prior to having to call a tow truck. But absolutely not. You can have your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your neighbor, anyone you want is allowed to use your spot as long as they have your permission. Yeah, of course. So I'm going to talk so it gives people time that if they're still typing their comments that they want to say up. I'm assuming everybody has taken time to look over the proposed changes. And just for some context, the prior rules gave everyone a 72-hour kit and a maybe option for a 2-week parking permit. And it was kind of up to like ACS / the board's discretion on whether or not there would be a fine associated with that. Okay, let's look up Brian's. Let's see what Brian said. What do we do if we find a vehicle parked in the road with no driver in sight? Happens pretty frequently. So currently, and we did not change this, there is no parking, no street parking. And so the best thing to do would, if it's during business hours, reach out to HOA West to let them know. And again, that goes back to the registering of the vehicle. So if that is a resident's car, we would be able to call them, contact them, and ask them to move it. If it's after hours, it would be contacting a board member. And we don't want to just automatically tow cars, but we do expect the residents of the neighborhood to have their visitors abide by the rules, which includes no street parking. So it doesn't need to, in my opinion, and of course, like the other board members, you can give your opinion as well, but I don't want to just automatically call the tow truck. I'd like to do everything we can to move that car, assuming the street parking is a visitor. I'm not aware of any overnight street parking. That doesn't mean that hasn't happened or won't happen. But if we are unable to contact them within a reasonable amount of time, and I'm just throwing out a number, I would say that reasonable amount of time is an hour, give or take, then they would be towed, because that's a solid concrete neighborhood rule that's been in place for years.
I think you're right on track there, Sarah. And I think if most people are going to do that, like I know sometimes people just pull over to the side and run in or run to a house real quick or something, but if it was a situation where someone wasn't there for like an hour, that seems pretty standard to take next steps.
So with the reason we proposed the overnight passes, the 2 72-hour passes, and the 2-week passes was that we obviously know that there is a need for visitor parking. That's why we have visitor stalls, and that also follows the Utah PUD laws and requirements that we have to adhere by. And what that means is that for the size of our development and where we are in Lehigh City, we have to afford 1 visitor stall for every 3 homes. So that means if you look at it, it's basically like splitting that visitor spot with 1/3 of your time per each 3 units. Does that make sense? So we tried to afford people as much visitor parking as possible while still being within the parameters of Lehigh City law. The problem that came about is where we did the 10 overnight, they can't be consecutive, the 2 72-hour in addition to the 2 weeks, even though the 2 weeks was every other, like 60, was it 30 days? I think it's every 30 days. So once a month, or it might be 60. I'll have to pull that up. But the problem we've created is we are now affording people too much use for the visitor stalls. Just at 60. So every 60 days, it would be 2 weeks. So if we look at it really simply, and we look at it like 1 visitor stall per 3 units, 1/3 of the time occupation. If we gave each home 10 visitor passes per month to use for whatever visitor situation they have without time constraints as far as consecutiveness, then that would, I think, solve the problem for people wanting to use their passes when and how they want to, for who they want to. And it also falls under the PUD requirements for Lehigh City. So just to recap, what I'm saying is that if we eliminate the 72-hour and the 2-week and give all 145 units 10 passes that can't be combined, can't be rolled over, it's 10 per month per unit for visitor cars only. So it wouldn't be for 3rd, 4th, 5th car homes. It wouldn't be for registered vehicles because residents are not allowed to occupy those visitors. Then that, I feel like, meets the demands of the neighborhood as far as visitor spots go, like the need for people to utilize them overnight. And it also falls within the parameters of the Lehigh City Code.
So I'm just going to recap a tiny bit more. What you're telling everyone is the rules that we proposed and sent out aren't really following Lehigh PUD laws. And that's why we're like, whoa, we need to change it.
Exactly. So if you give everybody 10 days plus 270, so that's 6 more days for the 272-hour passes, that's 16 right there. So you can't split a 31 day calendar down to 1/3 with 16. And then if you add the 2 weeks on top of that, that's another 14 days. So then what could possibly happen is that we have more requests for visitor parking than we have availability. And it affords people the opportunity to monopolize the visitor spot that pushes you past the threshold of the PUD restrictions. So yes. So Josh said in the chat, I think the 10 passes per month for visitors sounds great. If you decide to go that route, do we have to wait longer until you can vote on it, or can you vote on it tonight? So no, we can definitely put that in and vote on it tonight. That's why we're meeting here. And then Trevor says that is about as logical as I think is possible in this situation. And he says, and they can be used consecutively. You said yes, so there wouldn't be a restriction on that. You could use one day, 3 the next day, 5. You could use them all at once. Whatever. It would still be through the Google Doc. And then like a 2-nighter and then a week later. Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm proposing, because then there's no restrictions. If you have a visitor for 2 days, great. You have a visitor for 1 night, great. You have a visitor for 10 days, great. There's no restrictions. You can use those 10-day passes however which way you want within a calendar month. And then the next month you get 10 more passes. The only things about that I would like to talk about in the other sections of the CCNRs, or excuse me, the parking rules, is that we would need to kind of tweak with the resident car, how we've defined it as resident car is defined as a car that is parked in the community more than 14 days a month. We would just pull that back down to 10 so that the visitors that are visiting couldn't stay past the 10 visitor days allotted to each home. Does that make sense?
Joshua said, I think that's an awesome compromise and simplifies things a lot. And I think you, of all people, you went out last night and realized also how it does need to be simplified.
Right. So I actually drove around last night with our parking enforcement to see how the whole process works in a firsthand experience. And the reason we're having people register their cars is to make the whole process simpler, to make tracking for the board and the passes simpler, so we can just quickly look up license plates, see how many passes have been asked for, and have quick information. It also makes things as far as the Google request form and then the Google sheet where it inputs that information. It makes it quicker, faster, and easier for the parking enforcer to be able to look at it quickly instead of figuring out where in the calendar they are, where in the cycle, has it been consecutive days? Is it within the 60 days for the 2 weeks? It just simplifies it for everyone. And I'm a little, simpler is quicker, simpler is better. And I think it's a lot easier for homeowners to understand. You get 10 passes a month. They don't accumulate, they don't roll over. You get 10, use them how you will. Versus, do I need a 1 day night? Do I need a 1 pass, a 2 week pass? Do I have a 72? Where am I in the calendar? I think it just makes it simpler, quicker, and easier for everyone. And I am 100% for simpler, quicker, and more effective. Also, Jess, can you pull up the document, the proposed document, and go to this section where it talks about registering the vehicles? Does it talk about, did we word it that homeowners need to register all vehicles associated with that? Yeah, how did we word that verbiage? I can look it up as well.
Wow.
It says all, let's see, register their vehicles. So we don't specify, we just say vehicle parenthesis S.
Okay, do you guys think we should tighten that up a little bit, that, like, you know, all vehicles need to be registered? Is that
I think
something that,
I think that's what that means with the S. Personally, I think some people only have 1 car. If you have 2 cars, you would register them. If you have 3 and you're using permit parking or a neighbor spot or whatever, you register them.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know
Right.
that you could force everyone, you know, if they
You could say all.
say someone has, like, you know, 3 roommates or something. I don't know that you could necessarily force the extra
yeah,
cars.
no,
Yeah.
there's no way to force it. And it's not really we want to know everyone's information right now. It's just for those situations where if we have repeat violation vehicles, we can contact the homeowner or the renter, or landlord, or where we can contact the vehicle owner to correct the violation so they don't get towed. Yeah, residents are required to register their vehicles through the Google Doc and inform their tenants and guests of the parking rules. Yeah, required to register their vehicles. I think you're right, Melissa, the S vehicles, and like makes it clear that you register your vehicles. Things that would not change, that we would still have the 6 parking stalls for rent with the 6-month waiting rolling list. So then do we want to go in and let's see. So we would need to change, there are the 4 types of parking passes. We would need to edit that. And then of course the section about the passes. Anything other than that would be the same as far as enforcement, reaching out to HOA West. Nothing would change with where cars are allowed to park. So David, do you have any opinions or thoughts one way or the other?
Great question. No. Honestly, because of the other HOA project they're working on, I don't think it gave us the attention it deserved. So I'm not even going to, I might abstain from this vote if we're going to vote on it tonight, just because it sounds great, but I just haven't given enough thought on it personally. So.
Sure, that's fair. That's an honest answer too. So as far as the other homeowners that are in, does anybody else have any questions or thoughts or proposals? I would just want to make sure that everyone feels, you know, heard and understood, and we get as much homeowner participation as possible. Let's see. Chat. Great. Annika says great work. Thanks, Annika. It's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of thought goes into big decisions like this because it definitely affects everyone in very different ways.
Sarah, I think the rules are very explicit and good, so.
Well, it's hard because you can't tell. I don't think you can tell if someone's typing. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure we're not jumping over things. If you are typing, would you mind like just saying on your audio really quick, like I'm typing, just so we don't overlook anything? Okay. Well, then what I'm going to go ahead and do is, do we want to live edit the verbiage and go into the detail for that to, I guess we have to vote on it so we know exactly what we're voting on.
I'm working on making the edits right now. So I
Okay,
don't
it's going to
know.
take a minute.
Yeah, so if anyone else has any thoughts, etc. But
Yeah, something that we talked about that we didn't bring up here was implementing it for 60 or 90 days and revisiting just to make sure it is what's best for the neighborhood. I mean, it would be the same process, emailing 15 days ahead of time, having a meeting like this. But just so you guys know, if there's anyone who like isn't sure they love that idea, like we're gonna revisit it.
Way on board with that.
Yeah, I love the idea of passing as best as we can tonight, you know, the new parking rules. And then of course, if in 60 or 90 days we see a problem or something comes up that we weren't able to think of, or a variable that is frequent that needs to be addressed for the verbiage in the document, then absolutely we would, that verbiage wouldn't be put in the document, but it would just kind of be understood that, and when we email homeowners the past rules, if we get there tonight, that would be in the email and the communication to homeowners that we would be reevaluating it in 60 to 90 days. Jess, do you have a preference whether 60 or 90 would be better?
I do not.
Okay, do you, David?
I mean, maybe like
No.
60 is sooner, so we don't forget about it if we want to revisit it. But I think either way, we're fine.
Okay. Do you have a preference, Melissa?
No, probably 90, like the timing of 90 days would probably be better for me. And also like sitting down and coordinating with everyone. I think the middle of July would be tricky, but so if nobody cares, I say 90. How about that?
Okay, 90 it is. That was easy.
Sounds good. Okay, I believe I have it edited. I don't know how you want me to share it though.
Where did you, I guess the shared email, so we can all, well, I guess you don't want to put the whole thing in the chat. That sounds, what do you think? You tell me what's best.
I could, it is in the email as a draft. You're all right, like Okay, it's, okay. It is saved in the drafts. And I can also try to copy and paste it in the chat as well, if you give me a second.
Okay.
George, I'm gonna call.
So Jess,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it once you're done posting it. So I'm not giving you two different things at once.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to figure out how I can easily copy all of this.
So did we change a ton? Like if it's all staying the same, can we just like read what we changed and then vote on that? Just an idea. I don't know.
Yeah, the only things I changed, under visitors, the second bullet under visitors. Here, I'll copy and copy. 1 second. Okay, it doesn't want to copy and paste all of it, so
That's okay.
okay, so the parts that I changed were under visitors, second bullet point. I changed it to say visitors staying within the community for longer than 10 days will be held to the same parking requirements as a resident and will not be able to utilize a visitor parking stall. And then under parking passes, I changed to say there are 2 types of parking passes available, overnight and permit parking. And then under overnight definition, I have this pass is recorded through the parking Google Doc. Overnight passes are for visitors visiting overnight. Each home is allotted up to 10 overnight passes each calendar month. There is no charge for an overnight pass. And then I'm just going to add the 10, what should I say, 10 overnight passes begin anew each month. How is there a better way to write that?
Yeah, I would just say like when you say each home is allotted up to 10 overnight passes each calendar month. These passes cannot be accumulated or rolled over from month to month.
Perfect.
And homeowners are allowed to use them within a 30-day period based on their own discretion.
When you say based on their own discretion, do you think that is misleading and they won't log it in the Google Doc?
Yeah, that's fair. So so Jess, where it says this pass is recorded through the Google Doc, if we, so let's, yeah, we can redact that. And if it's, this pass is requested through and requested and recorded through the Google Doc. Overnight passes are for visitors. Each home is allotted up to 10 overnight passes each calendar month. And then I'd put a sentence, passes are not allowed to accumulate or roll over month to month. And then there is no charge for an overnight pass. Does that sound better, Melissa?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. These passes are not to be accumulated or rolled over. This pass is requested and recorded through the parking Google Doc. Overnight passes are for visitors visiting overnight. Each home is allotted up to 10 overnight passes each calendar month. These passes are not to be accumulated or rolled over. There is no charge for an overnight pass.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes. Was that the only other change?
Yes.
Okay, where are you, Sarah?
I don't go. Keep this up.
Okay, well, can we just like, oh, there she is. Can you hear me, Sarah? Sarah, you're on mute. You're muted. Is she trying to talk to us? Hello, Sarah. What is she doing?
Sarah, on the bottom of the Zoom,
Oh
the
my
left-hand
God.
side, there's a mute button. There we go.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I apologize. I was like getting phone calls and trying to read the email and it kept kicking me out of here. I apologize.
You're good. Glad to have you back.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Well, there were no other
What I-
changes. Like we went over the changes. But I didn't want to start voting if you weren't on. Wait, are you still here? Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm
are
just
we
pulling up the email.
okay?
What I was looking at before things went sideways. Visitors are defined as any person who is visiting for 1 week or less. Visitors staying within the community
That's
for
not
longer
right.
will be held to the same parking requirements. So,
Oh, I meant to say 10 days or
10
less.
days or less.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Live editing that right now.
okay, and then that should suffice with the. I'm just pulling up my notes because I wanted to make sure resident car is defined as a car that is parked in the community more than 10 days. So a visitor car, resident car. So we've got to address the resident too, because if we have cars with 3+ or units with 3+ cars, and if they say, oh no, that's not my car, that's my visitor or whatever, if we add in there a resident car is defined as a car that is parked in the community more than 10 days as well.
I thought we did that. Is it
If
just
I
in a different
pull-
spot?
Yeah, so I think that's what the one I changed initially was in that second bullet point. And then I just updated the first bullet point to say, sorry, excuse me.
No, don't apologize.
Okay, so I'll just read this section out loud one more time. Visitors are defined as any person who is visiting for 10 days or less. Visitors may park in the parking spots marked visitor parking stalls are available from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. Parking is not allowed in visitor spots without a parking pass between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Vehicles parked in parking spots may be towed at the vehicle owner's expense. Visitors staying within the community for longer than 10 days will be held to the same parking requirements as a resident and will not be able to utilize a visitor parking stall.
Right. I agree with all that. I'm just worried where this only talks about visitors. If we have units with 3+ cars that don't register their 3+ cars and they say it's a visitor,
Well, it says.
but I guess that falls
it
under the 10
says
days,
if
right?
if they are parked here for more than 10 days, then they have the same. They're held to the same standard as a resident.
Got it. Okay. Brian asked, how often is parking enforcement patrolling? Ideally, they're going out every night. There have been some nights where we had like the parking structure being built, so homeowners were occupying visitor spots for that situation. So it should be every night. There isn't a set schedule like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It should be every night. There are situations where that doesn't always happen because the bulk of the parking enforcement is done between 1 to 5 a.m. There is definitely some parking enforcement that goes on during the day because residents are not allowed to use the visitor spots. And there were a lot of problems of residents using visitor spots and then moving at night, which then didn't allow homeowners to have visitor spots during the day. And the other thing is that it's not just visitors like your friend. There are unevenly spaced visitor parking spots throughout the community. And if you're going to have an employee come and work on your air conditioning or your carpet or whatever, you also want those visitor spots available during the day for you to be able to access, for them to be able to access your home. Hey, Judy,
Yes.
can you click mute real quick?
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, Melissa, if you want to, you said in the chat, let's vote. So if you want to go ahead and propose that we vote on it, go ahead.
Well, what's the right verbiage? I propose we vote on these new parking rules for our neighborhood rules and regulations. Does that work?
Yeah, that's great. I second that. So then, because you called it, you would say all in favor and all against.
Great. All in favor?
I,
Do I have to say aye?
Brian.
That's 3. All against? I think, David, were you choosing to vote yes, no, or abstain?
I'm gonna abstain. I think it sounds great. I just,
That's okay.
yeah, it sounds great.
Wanted to make sure it was recorded, so you're good.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
wonderful. So what we will do is we will just fine tune those edits, make sure that they're cohesive to everything we discussed in this meeting. They will be emailed out to homeowners as soon as we have that through the HOA West, our management company. And I will go ahead and say meeting adjourned. So that was quick and easy, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks. Sorry, Jess.
No, we're good. All right. Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.